We've looked at model first or code first database, where we write out the code first in the model, and then we convert that into a database. Well, what if it's the other way around, like it is a lot, where we have a database and we want to incorporate that into our program? And so I'm going to show you how to do a data first scaffolding of the models. And so let's open up .NET. So we'll open Microsoft Visual Studio. When it loads, then we will go to create a new project. And that'll take a minute. We're going to search for our MVC template. So we're looking for this ASP.NET Core Web App Model View Controller. Again, we can type in MVC up here and that'll pull up. We just want the one to make sure that it's the one with C#. Next, and then I'm just going to call this Scaffolding Fun. All right, so Scaffolding Fun. I'll leave the rest of those defaults, and then I'll leave those defaults, and we'll build our little app. All right, so once that app's built, again, this is just the default app. Let's go actually get the database. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull up a web browser, and I'm going to search for Layman Baseball SQLite. All right, so this is just kind of one that's good out there for us to be able to use. It's a bunch of data. It's got a bunch of tables. It'll work perfect for our example here. So Sean Layman has put this work together. It's a bunch of baseball statistics if you're a baseball fan. And so we can click into that first link. I did that kind of fast. The GitHub link, he's just got it posted out here. And then there's this download the latest releases here. We can click on that, and then there will be a SQLite database. So I like to use this. I've used it before in my classes. It's a bunch of data. So baseball from 18-something to 2022 in this case. And so I'm going to click on this to download it. It downloads into the folder there. And then I'm going to open that downloads folder. And I will just take that little database and copy it. So we can see Layman 1871 to 2022, or whatever. If it's updated when you're watching this, then you can copy it, you know, whatever the latest one is. All right, then we're going to right click on this, drop it in. So we're going to paste, and that'll bring in our little SQLite database. All right, so the database is in there, and if we go take a look at this database, you'll see right off the bat that there is a lot of data here with a lot of tables. And so this is a pretty big database with a bunch of data in it. No thanks. But thank you for interrupting my video. So lots of data here. And so we've got this huge database that has all this information in it. And we want to incorporate this into our program. So these are all the different tables. We haven't really talked about indexes. So we'll just focus on these tables. All right, so we've got all this information that we want to get into our program. Now you can imagine building models for each of these. You could just go in and do it manually, but it's going to be a lot of work. And so there's a better way that ASP.NET gives us to get this type of thing into our system. All right, so I'll close that database. And then what we're going to do in order to make this work is we don't need to do all the steps that we did in to set up the code first database, but we do need to do some of them. And our main thing that we want to do is to bring in the packages that we'll need in order to build and run this database. Now there are specific packages that you need, like Microsoft Entity Framework Core Design, that we'll bring in, but we're just going to bring in all the ones we're going to use anyway. So our typical set. So I'm going to open, so we went before and said Tools, NuGet Package Manager, Manage NuGet Package for Solution, but you can also right click on the project and say, let's see, Manage NuGet Packages. It'll take us to that same spot. All right, so we're going to go out and search for, I just do Entity Framework Core, and that's going to pull up all the packages that we need. So first one is just the general Entity Framework Core. I'll grab the latest stable version of that for this 8.0 project. Now if I'd done a 6.0, then it'd be 6.0's version, whatever the latest stable version of 6.0 is, or 7.0 or whatever. But in our case, we've got 8.0 installed, so we'll install that. And then I want to get Microsoft Entity Framework Core Design installed. And so we'll get that one installed. We want Microsoft Entity Framework Core Tools. So I'll install that one. And then we want this Microsoft Entity Framework Core .SQLite. Now make sure it's the SQLite one and not the SQLite Core. We've seen a lot of problems with that. So SQLite. I'll install that one. And then I'll usually just click on installed to make sure that all the packages I thought were going to be installed were installed. All right, so we've got those 4 packages in there, and so we're in good shape. Now, in order to run this scaffold, we pull up Terminal. So we're going to right click on the project, open in Terminal, and we want to be in the same folder as wherever the csproj file is. So I'm going to do a ls here to list out the files, and I can see that I have this csproj folder. Some of you might need to drill down or up a folder to be able to see this, but where I've in the structure, I've by putting the solution where I did and setting it up the way I did, it's going to be in this folder. Okay, so we get into the folder that has this csproj file, and then we're going to run this command .net. And I don't know why the terminal is doing this, where it's jumping up a line. There's a little bug in there, but it's okay. We can keep typing. So .net ef, and then we type db context. That's really what we're scaffolding out, is the db context file. And then the command is to scaffold. So we're going to scaffold this, these models out of this database. We say data source equals, and then we put in there, and I'm going to take out the spaces, data source equals, and then we type in the name of the database. So this is LAHMAN_1871 hyphen 2022.SQLite. So we're telling it where our data source is. Now this eventually will go into a connection string, but for now we're telling it manually where it is. Then we type in the scaffolding structure that we want to use. So we say Microsoft Entity Framework Core, in our case SQLite. Obviously if you were using a different database management system, you'd type something other than SQLite. You'd type SQL Server, whatever the package was that you downloaded. And then we give it an output directory for our models that are going to be created. And so we use the -o, which is our output, and we say go put it in the models folder. All right, so .net ef db context scaffold, name of the database that we're scaffolding from, the package we're using, -o capital M models. All right, so we hit enter on that, and it goes to work. And it'll take a minute. It's got a lot to run through. All right, it says that it can't find the package Entity Framework Core Design. And this is always frustrating when it does this, because I look and say, I just installed Design. So if I go look at the NuGet packages, one of those that's installed in there is Design. But whenever we mess around with packages, it just has this tendency for us to want to give us problems if we have not closed. So I'm going to close out of the project. I'm going to reopen the project, and now it senses that those packages are installed. This is typically the problem. And so while I was not anticipating that, that's typically the solution. Now here I'm going to be in the wrong directory. Let's see if we can get back to the terminal. All right, so I am in the right directory now, so I'm going to rerun that command. Hopefully now it will recognize our design. And it gives us a few warnings, but it has gone in and scaffolded out all of those models for us. And we'll continue looking at that in the next video. Spencer, out.